Arwen, set the beat off flow. Whoa.
What is going on, everybody? It is time to start the podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome for all those who decide to come up, show up, and do up. I don't know, adding words together because you need to. You know, you got to sometimes, you know. Whether you're checking us out on YouTube or any other places that we put this information, welcome, we love you, and I'm ready to get started. I am part of your co-host team, The Infinite. My guy over here, there we go. Yeah.
Bam.
Yep.
It's got to do the other side.
Yeah. This is coming. This is coming. Yeah, a little bit. I could go a little lower. There we go. My man over there, Dan Estrata, the comedian, the well-known, informed individual about video games. Welcome, my guy. Say a few words about yourself, my man.
What's up, everybody? I'm Dan Estrata. This is the Money Match Gaming Podcast, where we talk all sorts of things, video games. We talk movies. We talk anime, you know, everything within that little subculture, we talk. And today we are talking a little bit about a game that, if you listen to last week's episode, you'll know I'm a fan of. So, yeah, we're talking about Dead Cells, baby. So, Lance, without further ado,
let's get it started. So, Dead Cells is a roguelike Castlevania-inspired action platformer, allowing you to explore a sprawling, ever-changing castle. Assume you're able to fight your way past its keepers. To beat the game, you'll have to master 2D soul-life combat. I don't know what soul-like or souls. Souls. Dark Souls. Okay. Yeah. Souls-like combat with ever-present threat of permadeath looming. No checkpoints. Kill, die, learn, repeat. There you go. That's the game.
That's a good description.
I mean, that's what they described it as, and I went with it. So, you know, I like to get the little read off for it a little bit, you know, like that. But general thoughts, man. That's like the best place to start, you know?
Oh, man. I mean, I like this game a lot. I've played it quite a bit. There's a lot of good I can say about this game. A couple more like tidbits of information about the game. It's developed by Motion Twin. A little interesting thing about Motion Twin, too. They have a kind of like a socialist structure into their business where there's no like pay tiers. Everybody gets paid the same no matter what you do on the team. Everybody reaps the same amount of the profits, which is very interesting. And this game is $25. It is for all consoles and the PC. It was on early access on Steam for a while. But now it is full release as of August 18th, I believe. And they announced that they're currently working on DLC because of the very, good reception to the game. So they're working on DLC and future content to keep this game alive as long as possible. But, general thoughts. I'm a big fan. I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, I talked about it a little bit last week. There a lot of reason that this game is getting some sort of traction right now is also because of that whole IGN review kerfuffle, which if you don't know, IGN released their review for this game. The guy who made the review essentially copied some other YouTubers' review, almost like word for word. I mean, he says he wasn't doing it purposely, but it totally seemed like it was purposely. Regardless, that guy got fired, and they released a new review, but there was a whole little controversy with that for a little while, and that's why this game's name you may have heard, even if you don't really know what the game is. But yeah, good stuff from here. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so like this game, first off, it's great. It's great, but I mean, we've talked enough that the butt's coming.
Oh yeah, the butt's definitely. I wasn't expecting anything else. I didn't have anything cons. I was like, all right, Lance can cover that section.
Yeah, I really can't. And it's like, it sucks because I have to be the negative Nancy of our group. And like, it is what it is, because it's like, it's not that I don't enjoy the game. It's the same problem I had with Gungeon, like it's too random to a fault, in my opinion, that like, when I started playing the game, you start off and you don't know what's going on. And the reason I made the little caption of like, can you describe this game in one word? And it's death. Like, they don't teach you anything. Death is your teacher.
Yeah.
You die, you learn, and I thought it was really funny when I actually looked up what the description of the game. It's like kill, die, learn, repeat.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That is the storyline.
It's all about
build
learning,
it in,
right?
And like, they make jokes about it and stuff like that. Like the way you play the game is by dying. Like literally, it's built into the game.
Right.
And, like,
you can't beat you can beat the game in one run, yes, but you can't even get like all 4 of your different abilities that you can get in one run. You have to do them all in separate runs because it has you go different paths.
Right. And so it's like, I personally didn't like that. And that's this is like deep, like this is what I enjoy about gaming, like thing for me. I love perfecting things. I love when I pick up a game and prior knowledge from all these other games allows me to pick up on these mechanics and basically perfect them off rip. This game was not one of those games. They don't give you enough information. They want you to die. It's like for me, like one of the triumphs I have with games is like picking it up and go, I've been here before. The muscle memory's there.
But that's
like,
boring. Like being able to be like, I can already master this game without ever playing it before. That's lame. Like having to like fuck up a lot and be like, shit. Like, okay, now I know how this works.
That's not how challenge is built, though. Because think about all the Marios. The Mario, like, it has some different recipes that make it different from game to game. But, like, you can pick up a Mario game and enjoy the hell out of it.
Sure, and that's fine. And I agree that's not always terrible. But for this kind of game, I think because it's such a short game. If you were to just be able to sit it and play through once without ever having to do anything else, that's lame. The game takes like 45 minutes to play through to the last boss and beat him. Like, that's not very long. If I played through the first time and beat it in 45 minutes, I'd be fairly upset. I'd be like, great, I spent $25 on a 45-minute experience. Like, that's lame.
I mean, I get why they built it that way, especially based off of like how much time and effort they could put into it given the resources that they have and stuff. I get those limitations, but like we have to consider, well, I always feel like I have to consider the potential of what it could be, and I think that this was definitely a drawback. I don't think, challenge should be built into, okay, I'm just not going to tell you anything so you struggle. Like for me, that point of view doesn't make sense to me. Like,
I mean, it's not so much not telling you anything so you struggle. It's just about being able to learn on the fly. Like, okay, so yes, the first run you don't know how to tell when an enemy's attacking, whatever, but you learn. It doesn't take long to learn, and then you there on in you kind of have that little tool. Like, okay, when they're doing this, when they're making that red line, they're about to attack. When they start glowing, they're about to attack. Like, let me move around, stuff like that. It takes a little bit to get used to, but I don't think this game works as one of those games where you can, like I said, it wouldn't be fun to beat this game in one go. If you beat it on your first try, that's, I mean, good for you, cool, but I don't think that would be fun. I think half the fun is in learning it and being able to like finally master it after a lot of fucking mess ups. For a lot of games, I don't agree with that. Like, I don't like the Dark Souls games. The Dark Souls games make me want to kill myself. But that's because I can't, like, I die to like the first mob every time over and over and over. It takes me a very long time to get used to that game. Whereas this game, I picked up a little bit easier. And there's so much like, there's so many different ways to play it, because as you start progressing through the levels and collecting cells and upgrading your health potions, or upgrading what items can drop, or whatever you have to do, getting all these upgrades and learning how to play the game better, the game feels better. Like, you're like, yeah, like you feel like you have a mastery. Like right now, I can get to pretty much the room before the last boss, or the last boss, like every other time, which is good. I'm very happy with that. But the first few days, I couldn't get past like the second or third floor, depending on which route I went. Right. But it's okay. Like, I think that's the struggle with this game. It's a good kind of struggle, in my opinion. I don't think it's like a frustrating struggle. Especially because as you play, you unlock these other items that when you get the blueprint for, you're like, oh, well, that could be kind of cool. I like how that works. And then you think about all these different combos you can do in your head. And then, yes, there is that RNG mechanic, so that when, you'll only get the items you've already unlocked, except for like legendary items. Those will drop at any time. But I don't know. I think this game would feel it wouldn't be fun if it was that easy to master.
I mean, it's not about ease of mastery. There's plenty of games that have the dynamics that I'm talking about, and that doesn't make it easy. Like having a firm understanding of how to play the game before you start getting slayed by monsters and mobs and all that other stuff. Like, I think, like, for example, I think Mega Man's a good example. Like they explain everything, but they can still own you. You can still get owned.
Mega Man doesn't explain anything. Mega Man does not tell you anything.
Yeah, it does.
No, it does not.
It does. It does. In a sense that it does early in the series and expects you to play the early ones.
Incorrect. Incorrect. They drop you into the shit because you get to choose where you start. You choose where you start in that game, and they don't tell you what's better, what's a good starting place, what's a smart spot to start, what counters what. They don't tell you any of that. That's all stuff you have to learn. I don't think you've played Mega Man.
Oh, dude, I played it a ton.
It was
one of my first.
Now, granted, after you played one Mega Man, yes, you kind of get how the other ones work, but there is no learning in Mega Man. You learn on the fly, you learn on the go. There's no.
You pick up armor pieces. They tell you how it works. I guess the basic mechanics
they tell you
of the
how
game.
These items work. It says it directly on the item when you pick up the item. Hit a third time for a critical hit. Does a critical hit guaranteed every time from behind. If you have a speed buff, will critical hit. It tells you exactly how the items play. You just have to get them.
That's semi-fair. I can concede that. But at the end of the day, where I'm coming from as far as them not telling you anything.
Right, they don't tell you anything, but it's one of the
that's the learning.
There's not really much to tell you. There's two buttons: roll and attack. You have all your attack buttons and you have the roll. There's not really much. Butt slam, I guess. They don't tell you about that, but that's not really something takes too long to learn. Let me hit down when I jump and see if it makes me slam into the ground. There's not really much for them to tell you. They can tell you enemies mechanics, but no game really does that. You kind of have to learn on the fly.
No, that's a part of the challenge. But the game, you're meant to die, and that's supposed to be your learning curve. And I don't like that. So either way it goes, I don't like that specific mechanic of the game, just because I don't think there is some joy on perfecting something on the first go, and most people aren't going to. So
once again,
it's not about
a short game.
Okay.
Why would anyone want to perfect a game that only takes an hour on the first go? That's not worth your money. That's a waste of money at that point.
I think there should be challenge built into it a different way. That's just kind of my opinion. And the reason I'm going about it this way is because, like, I just don't, like, oh, I lost by a technicality, not because of this, that, the other, or I, like, and I just, see, I'm having trouble explaining it.
Give me an example. You played the game, so give me an example from playing.
Every time you die, they give you more information. That's like the prime example. They don't tell you off rip. You drop into a stage. They go, hey, you're dead. You've been dead. And you might not know this, but you can't die anymore. Have fun in your dungeon. Then you come back later and the chick's like, oh, I guess you've learned some things. All right, well, maybe this will help. Then you come back and then she's just dead.
Yeah, well, yeah. She dies at the end of the floor. You find her dead body and then if you touch it, there's a blueprint in her.
Right, yeah, I got that, and then, like, all right, cool, I guess that happened, and then...
No, I mean, that's just basically, because there's not really a story, that's just basically saying, this girl who's showing you the way, this lady who's showing you the way is basically like, yeah, this is a dungeon, you gotta be strong to get it through, ha ha ha, I'm so great, and then she dies at the end of the first floor, basically saying she ain't shit. No one is shit. You gotta learn, you gotta just do it, just go for it. It's just all about learning. This game is heavy on learning what enemy attack patterns do, learning about what combos work well for you, learning how to spec your build when you play, like what colors to go for, or how to play. Like for me, I'm never a shield guy. I've used the shield a couple times and I hate it, and I'm not good at the parry mechanic. I don't like that when I block, I still take damage. I don't like any of that. So I don't use the shield.
I love the shield.
See, and a lot of people do. I saw this dude perfect the second boss with the shield, and it was incredible. It was some of the most awesome thing I saw. He was just like parrying literally everything. It was really cool. But I'm terrible with the shield. I'm better with a sword and bow, or sword and anything. My personal favorite combination would be the ice bow and any kind of weapon that crits. I like the swift sword that you get from doing the daily challenge for the first time. I think that's a really cool sword, just because there's an object, like there's an extra bonus to speedrunning in this game, which I think is really cool, because like the first few maps all have like locked doors based upon how quick you're going. So I think that's a little added bonus, for especially once you feel like you're starting to master the first few floors, like just breeze through them, go through them. So if you have that swift sword, it just makes it easier, because once you start getting fast, you're critting on all your shots, just one-shotting everything walking through. Feels nice.
And so I just didn't like that. So, like, a lot of the times I find myself complaining about, like, the general design of the game and how it's framed in a way that, like, certain kinds of skills are valued more than others. So, like, just to give an example, because I know that's confusing, if I take Call of Duty, if you wanted to be really good at Call of Duty, you need to control sightlines. That was like the main skill you needed in that specific game to actually be good at it. And then like a lot of fighting games, it's kind of more about footsies than it is about like actual combos and stuff and competence in that. It's more about, okay, well, how can I space this properly, to kind of make sure that I make him whiff while I can then capitalize on his mistake and stuff like that. And which is why I have such a hard time playing things like fighting games, because like that seems to be the main skill you need to be good at a game. Like it's like this weird footsie neutral that like kind of needs to be mastered. And I just don't think that that's kind of... It's just not what I value as far as what skills should be necessary to be good at something, which is why I love Halo so much. It was all about aim. It was all about awareness of the map. It was all about things that just made sense to me as far as like the way the game was designed as a whole. And like this is one of those games where it's like, like death is what's going to teach you. It's what's going to give you the skill. It's not, okay, my competence as an individual. It's just die a couple times and you'll get through it.
That's also not necessarily, I mean, yes, but like one of my friends he's just naturally good at video games, his Xbox tag is Commander Kitty. Hit him up. He is the one who kind of got me into roguelikes, and he beat this game relatively quickly. I mean, he still plays it. He plays it all the time. He has a copy on his Switch, and he has a copy on his Xbox. But he beat it pretty quickly. Like, he understands how to play these type of games. He's fairly good at them, and he beat it fairly quick. So there is a dynamic of just being good, getting good, but you do have to die a couple times. You got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. You know, you can't. Nothing. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. Any game like. Yes, Mario is an exception, I would say. Mario is one of the few games where I can play most of the game without dying and still think it's a great game. But you kind of have to. In most games, you kind of have to fail to, like, really
There has to be challenge.
There has to be a struggle, right? Like,
but they're not like, okay.
Monster Hunter, if you could just run through all the monsters never with any problem, what's the point?
See, that's not what I'm saying, though. Because, like, Monster Hunter, there's, like, a ton of explaining. And it's, like, overkill in that sense. To where it's like, oh, gosh, I don't really know how to play this game. Because there was no way I was going to read all the stuff they wanted me to read. I'd rather die and, like, learn through it. And that's, like, too far in the other direction. You know?
But once again, there's not really anything to teach. There's no real mechanic to teach in this game. Other than watching. It's just using your eyes and figuring out what does what.
No, like when you play Gungeon, there isn't a lot for them to explain, but they do send you through a small tutorial. Hey, this is how you roll. Hey, this is how you use the health pack. Hey, this is the blank and it does this. And, you know, like that would have been helpful. Even little, like, tips at the bottom of the screen popping up occasionally going, hey, this enemy does this. You should probably kind of play around it this way. And not to say that that's the information I was looking for. I just recognize from the root creation of this game, it's go, okay, well, we want it to be challenging and we want them to die, so how do we build that into the game? And it was like, all right, well, let's just kind of make some kind of, oh, you don't know anything that's going on, well, you're gonna die and then you'll reset and then we'll give you more. And I've always had a problem with games like that, because like, especially with like turn-based strategy games like the old Final Fantasies and stuff like that, to where they don't give you all the tools of the game at the beginning, and I feel like that like kind of stunts my.
But then what's the point? Like, so are you like anti-progression in games?
No, not at all. I'm just saying, like, I don't like when you, like, let's say in that specific game, so like turn-based strategy games, for example, you usually have some customizing weapon mechanic to where, like, you have to get so far into the kind of creation. You have to get so far in the storyline before you're actually capable of designing your own weapons and making it do different types of things. And I always thought that that was a disservice to the people who wanted to play the game. You know, I felt like if you start with all the different cool things, except maybe transformations,
that defeats the, once again, then there's no progression. The idea is to get to that point. If you start off OP, that's not fun.
Well, no, you could just limit.
That's like one of the struggles of a lot of mobile games is they start you off fairly OP and then it just kind of gets stale until you hit that, like, cap.
I mean, I would disagree. You know, I don't think that's the case. I think, and this is why I said I don't like how they're building the challenge of the game. You know, challenges of the game is you don't have all the tools to use. You know, and like I don't like that challenge. I would prefer to have all the tools and then fight somebody and see who turns out on top. Which is why I think people like multiplayer so much. You start the game, everybody has access to all the weapons or so, you know, they're all on the map. So like, let's consider Halo just because it's one of my favorite games. You know, everybody can pick up the rocket launcher day one. Everybody can pick up, you know, a sniper, you know, they can pick up plasma grenades, and your effectiveness with those weapons determines you winning or losing in these situations. So you could have different situations to where you don't have the optimal weapons for the situation, but there's things that you could do to outwit your opponent, to overcome that obstacle. It's not, okay, well, he's played the game longer, therefore he's further in the storyline, which gives him access to this specific weapon. And again, I was never a big fan.
If you're a quick learner, you can probably get through this game on the first try.
Yeah.
They give you a bow. If you get that bow and that sword, you can, if you figure out how things move, you can pick off people with the bow. You can spec yourself. You'll find items around the map to make you okay. You can do it. It's not undoable. The game is not like, I mean, it's hard, but it's not like the hardest thing in the world. You will die because you don't have a lot of like resources or life, but it's not like unbearably hard at any point.
No, I'm not calling it impossible. I'm just saying that the way the challenge is built into the game, I kind of just don't really. I just think it could be done a different way. But I don't want to get hung up on it too long because we actually did spend a lot of time on that, way more than I thought we were going to. So like, let's go into the general look of the actual game itself, man. Like how'd you feel about that?
I mean, it's stylized like a Castlevania type game, so I was totally into that.
I love that aspect of it. You know, like I thought that not so much everybody else, but I didn't like how simple the main character was. I thought he could have a little bit more character. Again, you know, I know what they were going for and why he was designed that way, but I still wanted to feel a little bit more attached to that model itself. You know, it was all just a blur, and I get it, but I wanted a little bit more. So you know, it's cool.
I enjoyed it. I had no problem with it.
What I think was awesome about the game was the whole StarCraft 64 kind of storyline layout, to where it's you could go to different paths of the castle, which kind of changed how the story happened a little bit.
Star Fox 64?
What did I say? Yeah, that's what I meant. Star Fox.
That's why I was confused. I was like, don't remember there being an N64 StarCraft. But cool, Star Fox 64. Yeah, where there's different paths and they relatively led in the same direction.
Yeah. So it just felt like that design to me, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of cool things that they could do, and as far as DLC is concerned and stuff like that, to where they can explore, you know, different paths through the dungeon, and they can kind of go any which way or direction that they wanted to, you know. And I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't know that I liked that kind of Star Fox 64 layout. You know, I didn't realize how much
I like options. I mean, often I will take the same option, but I like the idea of having options. So on the first floor, you know, if I'm going for a speedy run, if I find a door pretty quick, I'll go through whatever it is. I prefer to go through the promenade because I don't like the ancient sewers for a couple reasons. I don't like the scorpions that pop up from the ground because I'm never expecting them, and I'm like, oh no, there they are. And I don't like that all the water is poison. But other than that, I don't really mind it. And the promenade's not so bad anymore either. I didn't like the promenade at first because of the dummies, the training dummies that put shields on everybody, and they're super obnoxious. But once you play the game enough, they get not so bad. But yeah, I do like being able to be all right, well, I want to go this way, or I'm trying to find items through this door, or something like that. Right now, I'm often taking the path to the ossuary after the promenade, when normally I would go to the ramparts. Ramparts is way easier. Ossuary is much harder, but I'm trying to get a certain blueprint to drop, and it only drops off enemies in that area, so I have to get that way. But I like the different weaves and webs, and even there's a completely different first boss if you go a certain way, so that's cool too.
Oh, I don't think I ran into that.
Conjunctivitis.
I probably did 20 runs or something like that.
Yeah, I'm at about 100, almost 100.
Right. So it was but I definitely see. I say I don't like dying, and I think that's kind of true, and I hate how they built it in. But at the end of the day, the game got a lot more interesting as you died, as you started getting
because you can make yourself stronger. You know, there on out. Having the more health potions is huge. If there's one thing I can recommend to anybody playing the game is spend your cells on the health potions when you can. That's one of the most important things. Having that four health potions makes, can turn a terrible run into an okay run. Also, always make sure to buy, especially as a kind of noob, make sure to buy when you die, you come back to life as your first mutation. You can only buy it as your first mutation, and it's pretty good to have. Especially because when you do die, if you make it to the end of the floor, you can just get 2 mutations. So, cool beans.
Right. So that was that kind of cool element, and it started getting more interesting. But then I got to this point where I was like, man, I really wish that they would kind of let me do a general layout, a loadout. Sorry, not layout, loadout. To where it was okay, well, I like doing the run with the big giant broadsword or something, or the big giant axe. And I kind of wished, I felt like they could just make a basic form of all the weapons in the game and allow you to kind of experiment with loadouts and things like that. I thought that would have been way more interesting.
The only reason that will never happen is because that defeats the purpose of a roguelike. The whole idea of a roguelike is the procedurally generatedness of everything. The dungeons are procedurally generated. The items you get are procedurally generated. The enemies you encounter are procedurally generated. So by giving you a choice of item, it kind of takes away from it. However, there is something called the daily challenge that every day a new one comes out, where it's a set map that you have to complete in 5 minutes, I think. And everything is in a set place, and you start with certain items, and you find certain items on the map and stuff like that.
And I mean, like, sure, you could say that, but, you know, Enter the Gungeon, I would consider the kind of like a very similar game, and like you could pick a loadout by picking different characters. I don't think that defeats the purpose.
Well, I mean, that's just your starting stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They could make basic weapons of each one that are not overpowered, because there are certain weapons that I feel like.
I mean, there are the regular basic weapons. You know, there's the sword, the shield, and the bow. You can set it so that random ones appear, and I prefer to do that because that just, you know, gives you an opportunity to start with a better item, but you do kind of have a default loadout right there.
I mean, kind of, but you don't get to choose. You know, there might be people
choose one, the shield or the bow, or even you could go bow and shield if you want. If you're a crazy person like to live on the edge,
like, and so like, you know, for example, I did get the random like weapon drop down melee weapon. You know, and the one time I got the boot. You know, and like it was so difficult to kill people with the boot.
You're talking about the Spartan sandals, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Spartan sandals is one of the items that I wrote down, because the Spartan sandals are an interesting item because everybody hates them, except they're actually kind of awesome when you get used to them. They suck, like they're frustrating, and the first time you use them, like you're like, what the fuck is this? But I played them and I got pretty good with them, to the point where the first boss, you can cheese him with the Spartan sandals. If he gets up against the wall, you just chain kick him and he gets stunned forever, and he takes double damage because he's up against the wall, and you just melt him. The Spartan sandals are great. I will fight to the death for the Spartan sandals. I understand why anyone wouldn't like them, but if you try them, they're a lot of fun. Kicking people off ledges, kicking people in the walls, and watching them explode. They are a satisfying weapon, especially because it like stun locks everybody too.
It's not that I hate the weapon itself. I just hated not having a reasonable choice after I spawned, and I was like, all right, well,
but that's the thing. On the first floor, you're pretty likely to find at least a weapon somewhere on that floor.
I don't think that's a fix, though. I don't think you ruin the game by giving people an option to pick the giant sword, the axe, the
I think you do, because I mean, you give if you start with, you know. Like, if I started with the Assassin's Dagger and Bow every time, like, I'm going to get...
Well, those are higher tier...
Not really.
Those are higher tier weapons.
Not really.
Those are definitely higher tier weapons, and that's not what I'm referring to. Like, the basic 4 weapons is what I named, which was the basic sword you start with, the axe, the broadsword, and then the sandals. Like,
I don't think there's any axe. I don't think there's an axe.
Like the Nutcracker?
Oh, that's a mace. That's a mace.
Okay, it's a mace. You know, that's. I just thought it was an axe, just the way it was. Like it looked to me, it just looked like an axe. But those are, I feel like, are the basic weapons of the game. And then anything else, like the blood sword and, you know, the assassin's knife, the double daggers, they all have like special, you know, additives to it. I feel like most of those other weapons are just like, they're basically different, and they operate a little bit different. They might do a slightly more damage, but they didn't have all the extra fling to it.
One thing to know, which a lot of people don't realize, is that once you've unlocked the random other weapon, if you go, you know, that starting bridge that like you spawn on, if you go underneath there's actually 2 runes you can break, and you can always get the starting sword or the starting bow again. So if you start with the sandals and are like, nah, you can go to the bridge, break underneath it, and get the starting sword again.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's also a pattern hidden at the beginning once you get the wall run that you can get, or wall climb.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get that far. I think I got past the first boss, the big, ugly, like spiked arm dude. Yeah. And I think I fought one for one of the runes that you get for the special things that you could do in the sewers and stuff like that, which was interesting. I feel like this game could have a little bit more justice with like mini bosses and stuff like that, but again,
well, those mini bosses that you're talking about, just the elite mobs that they force you to fight when they get the runes, those are kind of silly. But I mean, They get, especially on the last floor, they're really hard. Not that they're like any harder. They're just, same thing. They're enemies, just harder forms of enemies. But they add this mechanic called malice. And when you get hit by them, you get 2 stacks of malice. And if you get 8 stacks of malice, you instantly die.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, and you can drink a potion to heal them off, but it's just, another extra thing that they do. But yeah, I think there's 4 bosses. There's the concierge, there's the timekeeper, there's the hand of the king, and then there's conjunctivitis. Conjunctivitis is the alternate first boss that you have to fight when you get the the butt slam ability.
So there's all that. I kind of wish they had more combos for each weapon as well. I kind of felt like that was a little basic. And sometimes I didn't seem to do what I wanted to, especially when fighting like this, like flying mats and stuff. Like it was really hard to kind of make my like attacks do what I wanted them to. Like, it'd be nice if I could just do like hit like a directional pad and just do a more wide-ranging attack to some degree. So like there's like a lot of easy enemies that aren't easy because there isn't like a clear like. There is a clear attack pattern. It's just I wish that you had a little bit more variety when it came to that, so I could use that in those types of situations. It felt a little gimmicky. I think
the idea is that there's just so many different items that it would take too long to make too many different combinations for all the items. So just a different playstyle would just be a different set of items,
Right, and like again, we kind of have these conversations and I'm like talking about like the potential of the game and stuff and some things that would just be nice if they were there. And that was like definitely one of those mechanics where I was like, I get it, they're an indie game, but at the same time, it would be nice if I could just do like one extra move that had more wide of range, maybe did less damage or something, or different air attack, to where, I could just kind of do something that better suits the situation than going, oh, let me jump and hit this dude, and then it goes like way under the enemy.
That's why I like the bows. Then I don't really have a problem with like air enemies because I just bows, throwing knives, anything, any ranged weapon will just take them out easily. Right,
and so it's just it'd be nice, but that was definitely one thing that I was like, I really wish they had that because it would go better. So,
yep.
I mean, that's pretty much it, though, to be honest, man. This game was really, really simple, and it, like you said, it wasn't, like, super, super long, and there's not, like, a lot bad to say about it. It's just, those things would kind of, like, take it to the next level for me, in that sense,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the pros I have are repetitive but never stale. You'll do the same first level 100 times, but doesn't really ever bother me so much. Like I like doing that first level because I actually feel super powerful now when I do it. I'm just like, I'm gonna run through it in a minute, go really quick. There's a high skill cap. Like it's easy to play, easy to get a hang of, easy to figure out, just by watching what certain things do. But it is hard to master. That last boss is a pain in the ass. I have not figured out how to beat him. I've fought him a few times now. And it feels great. Feels really good to learn new weapons. Like I was saying about the Spartan sandals. Like the first time I figured out like the true potential of Spartan sandals, it was just like I felt like I was going Super Saiyan. It felt incredible. But it's fun. I like it. I love the game. Can't say too much about it. I don't have any really negative things to say. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm happy that they've announced that they will be doing stuff in the future, DLC or added content or whatever, paid, free. I'm not entirely sure, but I would like to see more from this game, and I'm excited that we will be seeing more.
I'd give this game a 6, a lot like Gungeon. And if you don't know my rating scale, like, 5's like, it's a decent game, and all that other stuff. It's not a bad game. Like pretty much everything. There's ways and places that it could grow that I think would make it like, the greatest of all time because it's like a really fun game. Like Dan was saying, there's like a lot of things that you could do and it's never truly stale. So it's like that part's like good. And as far as like it being compared to Gungeon, I definitely think it's better than Gungeon in a lot of senses. It's a little bit more exciting, more fast-paced, and there's like less randomness, you know, because like I think randomness is good, but I also think that, you know, these games are kind of doing it to a detriment. That, like, you know, I think having some structure goes a long way, you know, and they just take that randomness to the extreme in a way that I don't think is actually helpful to the design of the actual game itself. But, you know, definitely a 6. It's definitely a game you should go play, especially if you like these kinds of platform games. So, you know, check it out, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you couldn't tell, this is a very, very strong yes from me. I very much, I about a month ago, I would not touch a roguelite with a 10-foot pole. I was not into them. And now, for some reason, my tutors changed. And now I feel like I should go back and play Dark Souls again, because maybe I'll be good at it now. Who knows? But yeah, no, I love this game. And I'm very happy it exists, because I've put in way too much time in it already, and I will continue to do so. And it's a great price. I mean, $25 is nothing. I mean, if that's a little too steep, it's an indie game, so it will go on sale. They always do. Just wait a little bit. But I definitely think this is a game worth playing, especially if you ever had any interest in, like, not just roguelikes, but any sort of Metroid or Castlevania, you know, any Metroidvania games, any side-scrolling platformers of that sort of feel, that like. So definitely check it out. Thumbs way up from this boy.
All right, so any closing statements outside of that, my guy?
No, check it out. Do it. Do yourself a favor. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Watch some streamer play it and be like, oh, they're good at the game. I should be good, and then buy it and be terrible.
And learn by death.
Learn by dying. You just gotta die to have a little fun. It's okay. I die a lot. I don't die as much as I used to. I get a lot further than I used to, but I still die. I sometimes have to use all 4 of my potions on one floor. I feel like a jerk when I do that, but it happens.
My pride's a little in. I only have like 2 uses right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like, once again, I have 100 runs in that game. Like, right now, I'm not even worrying about blueprints except for the one I want. Like, I'm putting all my like, I'm actually holding on to my cells after I leave floors to spend them all on, like, the post-boss floor where I can make higher valued items drop.
Dope.
Yeah, so I have like an 85% chance for like the items to drop to be plus quality, and that includes starting items. So I usually just start off with like fairly solid items. It's nice.
It's nice.
It is nice.
Very nice.
Definitely helps early on, especially when you get like a weapon you don't necessarily like, but it has like good like complementary
stats.
Yeah, like complementary like bonuses on it. Although sometimes you'll get screwed on the bonuses, and you'll get the one that says heal yourself 1% HP after you kill somebody and take 100% more damage. Newsflash, guys, that's not a good power-up. That is like the worst one. If you ever get that one, roll it off of your gear as quick as possible.
I like that good old... I can't believe you don't like the shield, man. You take such less damage.
No,
that's
for
insane.
sure. Yeah, you take a ton less damage. Actually, the run where I first got to the High Castle, I had a legendary shield. But I don't really use it, so I'd prefer to have my bow, like... Especially if it's... I mean, Ice Bow is, I think, the best item in the game, like, bar none. That item is super high tier. It's so good.
I like the Hadouken.
The Frost Blast thing?
Yeah, that thing's fucking
Frost
awesome.
Blast is good too. I like Frost Blast a lot. But if you get Ice Bow with piercing arrows, it's just as good, if not better, and it's way quicker to use because there's that little charge time on the Hadouken where you're like, FONG! Like there's that like 1 second,
right.
Whereas the Ice Bow is just like clamp, clamp, like instantly. So Ice Bow, really good. I also like the Frost Blast though. My buddy hates the Frost Blast. Frost Blast is great, and
so
all the ice weapons are great. All the ice weapons, anything that freezes enemies and makes them not mess with me for a little bit is great.
It's kind of overpowered though. Not against bosses, but like just regular mobs. I'm always kind of like, yeah, that was like...
Yeah, oh yeah. It's definitely really good against regular enemies. Against bosses, the Frost Blast isn't so good because it has diminishing returns on it. So after a while, the bosses are like, that's not... You're going to have to wait like 15 seconds before that's effective on me again. and that's frustrating. But the ice bow is better than that, where there's no diminishing return, but you know you don't have a lot of ammo on it, so you run out of ammo for a bit and have to kind of like re-get it. But I don't know. It just, and there's so many different play styles, man. Like I had one run where I was just a deployable guy, so I was just all about like setting turrets and like standing on the the platform above it and just letting it do
letting it do its thing.
Yeah, man. Sometimes you got to be a little bit of a bitch to win the game. I still haven't though, so I really can't talk.
Yes, Jubes, you came right when we're closing. Right when we closing. But it's cool. It's cool. It's all right. We'll have another one. It'll be in 2 weeks though, because you know I gotta go and do the whole family vacation thing, get my daughter named and stuff like I've been mentioning. So, but it's good, Jubes. It's good. No worries, man. No worries. Just
8 o'clock next time, Jubes.
Yeah, see,
be square.
And like you're working, so it's like, you know, work, you know. And I know you're like
do your thing.
Yeah, she's like an intern. I don't know where she's interning, but you know,
gotta do your thing, Juice.
Gotta do it, man. Gotta do it. But that pretty much does it for us. You know, no real huge closing statements. I think we've been through that. So thank you guys for coming out. Much love. The next conversation I think will be about a movie from what me and Dan have discussed. So
yeah,
you know,
Sorry to Bother You, I think, right?
That might be it. Although like, I have to find these other ways. Basically,
yeah, it's not playing around you anymore.
Yeah.
Bummer.
And if it
we'll
is,
figure
it's like,
something out.
Oh, real job?
What?
No, Juju. She said I got a real job though.
Oh, nice. That's even better.
I'm a real boy.
Exactly. But yeah, all right. Well, guys, if it's not Sorry to Bother You, it'll be Black KK Klansman. Black KK Klansman.
You seen it already? Maybe.
No, but I'm gonna see it.
All right, cool. All right, but good night, Jubes. Good night, D Live. Thank you guys.
Take it easy, everybody.
Good night.